"That's me." The word slipped out before Oliver Crane even realized he'd spoken. The wallet lay open on the subway floor, the ID card staring up at him beneath the flicker of the train's fluorescent lights. His own eyes looked back, same brown iris flecked with amber, same faint scar above the lip from a bike accident 10 years ago. He bent down, pulse tightening. Around him, the train hummed, indifferent. The stranger who dropped it, tall, clean-cut, gray coat, stood just a few steps away, scrolling through his phone. Oliver's hand trembled as he picked it up. "Hey," he called, voice catching, but the man looked up, glanced at him with polite confusion, and then stepped off as the doors hissed shut. The wallet felt warm in Oliver's hand. His name, Oliver J. Crane. His date of birth. His photo. But the address and job were wrong. The man had his face but lived somewhere else. He sat frozen for a full stop before stepping off at the next station. The tiled platform felt colder than usual, echoing with footsteps that weren't his. He opened the wallet again under the harsh, white light. Credit cards. A Metro ID. Business card, NeuralSys, Cognitive Imaging Division. His own handwriting signature, precise, practiced, something he hadn't signed in years. He tried to laugh, but it came out broken. Maybe it was some elaborate prank, a deepfake ID scam. Still, when he turned the card over and saw the faint holographic watermark shimmer with his own face moving slightly out of sync, the humor vanished. It was alive. By the time he reached the surface, rain had started to fall, thin, misty sheets that distorted every reflection. He stared at his image in the glass of a store window. For a second, his reflection blinked slower than he did. He rubbed his eyes hard and kept walking. The city around him felt heavier, like a dream pressing down. He reached into his pocket for his own wallet, opened it, compared the IDs side by side. Identical faces. Identical numbers. Only one difference, the other one listed his occupation as systems engineer, NeuralSys Cognitive Division. Oliver was a freelance copywriter, barely keeping his rent paid. He'd never worked at a lab. He walked into a police station, damp and uncertain. "I think someone's using my identity," he said. The officer barely looked up. "You'll need to file a report online, sir," he insisted, showing both IDs. The officer frowned, tapping a keyboard. "Mr. Crane, says here you were issued this card last week. Address matches." Oliver leaned forward. "That's not my address." The officer gave him a look somewhere between suspicion and boredom. "Sir, maybe you should check with the issuing agency." Oliver left the station feeling smaller, lighter, almost transparent. At home, his apartment key jammed. When he finally pushed the door open, the lights flickered as though startled. His answering machine blinked with 2 unheard messages. He pressed play. The first was his mother's voice, tight and formal. "Please don't call again. I've already spoken to you this morning. Stop pretending." The second was a man's voice, smooth, controlled. "Mr. Crane, this is Human Resources from NeuralSys. We received your request for leave. It's been denied until further notice. Please refrain from contacting external agencies." Oliver dropped the phone. His heartbeat was a hammer in his ears. Someone out there was not only living as him, they were erasing him. He tore through drawers, searching for proof of himself. Birth certificate, college ID, bank card, all still there. But when he logged into his bank app, the balance was 0. Account not found. He tried his social security number. The system flagged it as invalid. The world was shrinking, pixel by pixel. He pulled up an old folder on his laptop labeled Family Photos. A warning appeared. Folder unavailable. Access restricted by NeuralSys protocol. He didn't understand. He wasn't part of any protocol. A knock startled him. Through the peephole, a woman in a beige coat stood holding a folder and an ID badge. NeuralSys Cognitive Division. His chest tightened. He opened the door halfway. "Mr. Crane," she said gently. "I think there's been a mix-up." Her tone was practiced, reassuring, like a doctor breaking bad news. "I'm Dr. Lydia Vale. May I come in?" He stepped back, still gripping both IDs. She looked around his cluttered apartment, noting the rain-wet floor and trembling hands. You found her duplicate, didn't you? She asked quietly. His jaw clenched. Duplicate? That's me. Who the hell is he? Lydia's eyes softened. Someone who needed a new life. And someone who gave it to him. He laughed, sharp and hollow. You think I gave someone my face? She reached into her folder, sliding out a document stamped Consent Record 4387, C. Oliver J. Crane. His own signature marked the bottom, dated 8 months earlier. You volunteered, she said. Memory fragmentation, identity replication trial. You signed away your cognitive imprint. He stared at the paper, as if it were a weapon. I don't remember signing anything. She nodded. That's part of the process. Oliver's breath grew shallow. You're telling me I donated myself? Lydia hesitated. Not all of you. Just the parts that hurt. Her words twisted like glass in his chest. He stepped closer. Then why do I still feel everything? Lydia's eyes flicked toward the flickering lamp. Because something went wrong. The system cloned your neural pattern but failed to delete the original. She looked at him, truly looked. You're not supposed to exist anymore. The room fell silent except for the faint buzz of the light above them. Oliver's reflection in the window watched the scene unfold like a separate spectator. He whispered, Then who's walking around out there with my life? Lydia gathered her folder, her voice barely a breath. The man you saw on the train. He believes he's you perfectly. But if he ever sees you again, both patterns could collapse. She paused at the door. Don't try to find him. It'll destroy you both. She left before he could speak. Oliver stood there, the rain against the window merging with his own reflection until he couldn't tell which drops were outside and which were inside. He picked up the 2 IDs again. His thumb brushed over his face. Twice the same, neither true. A distant train rumbled under the city. He whispered to no one. If I'm not supposed to exist, then why do I remember everything? The lights flickered once more, and in that instant, his reflection didn't move at all. That's not me, Oliver whispered, but the scanner didn't care. The red light blinked steady and cold, washing over his face like an accusation. The receptionist leaned closer, brow tightening. Sir, please don't interfere with the facial recognition device. Her voice had the flat calm of someone reading from a script. Oliver forced a smile. Tried again. It's just a glitch. Try it once more. She nodded mechanically, pressed a button, and the red light returned, brighter this time, almost searing. The computer chirped. Access denied. Subject. Unverified identity. Possible fraud alert. The sound made his stomach drop. The receptionist looked up, confused but cautious now, eyes darting to the security guard near the elevator. Sir, I think you should wait over there while we sort this out. He didn't move. The world had begun to tilt. Somewhere behind her desk, a printer whirred and spat out a sheet of paper. His name. His photograph. And underneath, status revoked. Oliver stumbled out into the rain before anyone could stop him. His ID felt heavier in his pocket now, like a dead thing. He pressed it against the glass of a shop window and stared at his own reflection behind it. Same face, same scar, same eyes. Yet every system that had once recognized him now rejected him like a virus. Inside the window's reflection, his mirrored self looked sharper. The jawline firmer, posture straighter. He blinked, and the reflection blinked half a second later. His throat went dry. Stop it, he muttered, stepping back. A passerby gave him a wide berth. He ducked into a diner, soaked through. The waitress didn't even glance up when she said, Seat yourself. He slid into a booth and checked his phone. Email. Account locked for security verification. Bank app. Invalid credentials. Socials. Profile not found. He typed his own name into the search bar and felt his stomach twist. His picture was there, smiling on a corporate website under the title NeuralSys Cognitive Engineer. Same birth date, same name, same everything. But not him. Beneath, it was a short biography, joined after successful memory reconstruction trial. Known for his pioneering work in identity persistence algorithms. He whispered the words, hollow. Identity persistence. The waitress placed a cup of coffee on the table. "Rough day?" she asked. He nodded, unable to speak. The TV above the counter flickered with a news segment about NeuralSys. He saw himself, his double, speaking confidently at a podium. "We're proud to say our replication models are more human than ever." Oliver's hand shook. "That's not me," he said aloud. The waitress blinked, confused. "Sure, honey." He left cash on the table and stumbled into the street. The rain had stopped, but the air felt heavier, like static. As he crossed an intersection, an overhead drone buzzed. Its lens flared red when it passed him, and a mechanical voice echoed. "Unregistered duplicate detected. Please stand still." People turned. Panic seized him. He ran. The drone followed, beams slicing through the dark. "Stop!" someone yelled. A siren howled nearby. He ducked into an alley, heart thundering, and pressed himself against a wall until the hum faded. His breath came in short, ragged bursts. He realized his hands were shaking not from fear, but from the electric pulse that had just run up his arm when the drone's light hit him. His smartwatch glowed faintly. Sync error. Neural signature mismatch. He tore it off and hurled it into the dark. It clattered against metal, echoed like a shot. He looked around. The alley was narrow, lit by a single flickering bulb. A homeless man sat near a dumpster, muttering to himself. Oliver froze when the man looked up. "They switched your eyes," the man said softly. "I can tell. Seen it before." Oliver stepped closer. "What did you just say?" The man laughed, low and broken. "You don't belong to your own face anymore. None of us do." Then he pulled his hood over his head and went silent. Oliver backed away, stumbling into the street again. Every car that passed seemed to carry reflections of him in the glass, faces slightly off, each one a variation that wasn't quite him. He reached a payphone, one of the few left standing, and dialed Lydia's number from memory. She answered on the second ring. "You weren't supposed to call me," she said quietly. "They've flagged you." His voice cracked. "They think I'm the imposter. They're erasing me." A pause. Then, "Oliver, listen. The system's correcting an anomaly. Two identical patterns can't coexist. The one that's integrated will survive. The one outside will." She stopped herself. "Meet me. There's a place we can talk." "Where?" he demanded. She hesitated. "Pier 19. Midnight. Don't let cameras see you." Then she hung up. The phone went dead. The city around him seemed to listen. Somewhere above, a public screen displayed an emergency alert. Security breach at NeuralSys Cognitive Division. Suspect at large. A grainy image appeared. It was him, caught mid-run, eyes wide. His name in bold beneath. Oliver J. Crane, Identity Fraud Investigation. A woman passing by gasped and looked from the screen to him. He turned away quickly, hood up, walking fast, but he could feel eyes following him, phones lifting, lenses capturing. By the time he reached the waterfront, the streets were mostly empty. The lights shimmered on the water like scattered glass. He crouched behind a row of shipping crates, watching the reflection of himself ripple in the dark surface below. He whispered to it, "If you're me, what am I?" The reflection shifted with the waves, distorting into something almost unrecognizable. Footsteps echoed behind him.
He spun.
A silhouette stood under the pier light, calm, familiar, still. The man from the subway. His face, his walk, his everything. The double didn't flinch. "You should have stayed gone," he said softly, voice steady, almost kind. Oliver froze. "You're not real." The other man smiled faintly. "I'm the version that worked." For a second, neither moved. The night seemed to hold its breath. Then the sound of sirens swelled in the distance. The double's gaze shifted past him toward the flashing lights. "They're coming for you, not me. You'll never prove who you are." Oliver stepped forward. "You stole my life." The double shook his head. "You gave it away." Then he turned and disappeared into the mist. Oliver stood trembling, the truth burning cold in his chest. The sirens grew louder, the reflections on the water sharper. He looked down once more and saw that his reflection no longer moved at all. The scar wasn't there before. Oliver's voice was barely a whisper, but the mirror caught it like a confession. His fingertips traced the faint line just below his hairline, thin, surgical, too precise to be anything accidental. He leaned closer, watching the tremor in his reflection's hand. The bathroom light flickered once, and for half a second, he thought the reflection didn't move at all. He pressed harder against the skin. A flash of white light burst in his head, not memory, but sensation, the smell of antiseptic, the hum of machinery, a cold voice saying, "Subject 4387, C. Implant secured." He stumbled back, gripping the sink. The sound had come from inside his skull. When he blinked, the mirror stayed bright, as if still illuminated by that impossible memory. He ran to the sink, splashed water on his face, but the cold didn't wash it away. Images kept flickering. A table, blue light above, his eyes open while someone whispered numbers into his ear. He pressed his palms to his temples. "Stop," he breathed. The voice replied, calm and mechanical, memory stabilization incomplete. His knees gave out. The sound faded, replaced by the distant hum of the motel air conditioner. He looked around. Everything was still, ordinary, cheap. But the line on his head pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat beneath the skin. By morning, he could barely look at himself. Every reflection, the faucet, the window, the dull shine of the doorknob, felt alive, waiting for him to notice something. He wrapped a cap around his head and stepped out into the street. The city had begun to feel like a test. Every face, every sign, every sound arranged for someone else's eyes. When he stopped at a crosswalk, the traffic screen flickered. For one frame, he saw his own medical chart appear, cognitive transfer date, March 19th, 22. Implant series, beta. He blinked and it was gone. He found an internet cafe, the kind that still took coins. He typed NeuralSys 4387, C into the search bar. Access denied. He tried again with his old credentials. The system rejected him instantly, but before the page vanished, a thumbnail flashed for half a second, his own face, eyes closed under a surgical light. His hands shook. He looked around, half expecting someone to grab him. No one even looked up. The city was too busy deleting him to notice. He printed the image before the system wiped it. The paper came out half blank, the edges burnt like old film. Still, in the faint outline, he saw himself, not quite him. The hair shorter, the face calm. Beneath the photo, a phrase appeared in pale ink. Donor acknowledged. Integration successful. He folded it into his pocket like proof of a crime that only he remembered. That night, he took a cab to the address printed on the NeuralSys employee card he'd found in the stolen wallet. The driver glanced at him in the mirror. "You sure about that place, man? They shut it down last year. Something about data leaks." Oliver nodded. "Just drive." The building was on the city's edge, industrial and silent. The windows were covered in steel mesh. A flickering sign above the door read, "Only NSC." Inside, the air smelled like rust and ozone. The elevator didn't work, so he climbed the stairs, each floor darker than the last. On the third landing, he saw something scrawled on the wall in faded ink. "Do not look at your reflection during reconstruction." The words chilled him more than the empty halls. He found a lab door ajar and pushed it open. Rows of hospital beds lined the room, each with a cracked monitor still glowing faint blue. The sound of static filled the space. He approached one bed, the sheets still indented as if someone had been lying there moments ago. On the nightstand sat a folder labeled Subject Log 4387C. His breath caught. Inside were photos, headshots from different angles, each stamped with a timeline. Day 1, Day 10, Day 30. In the final image, he was smiling. Not the way he remembered smiling. This one was peaceful, complete, like a man who'd found meaning in surrender. Below it, the line read, "Host consciousness transferred successfully." He slammed the folder shut. "You can't transfer consciousness," he muttered, but his hands were trembling because he knew they already had. A sudden sound made him spin. From the far corner, a monitor flickered on by itself. The image showed a surgical room, the same one from his flashes. A man, him, was strapped to a table. Dr. Lydia Vale leaned over, checking a screen. Her voice filled the room, calm and clinical. Memory fragmentation at 12%. Subject responsive. Begin emotional detachment sequence. Oliver's own recorded voice answered. I don't want to forget her. Lydia sighed in the video. That's the point, Oliver. Pain anchors the pattern. We need to release it. The footage glitched. For 1 second, he saw her hand slip over his eyes, and then nothing. The screen went black. He stood there, paralyzed. The truth fell into place piece by piece, like shards cutting their way through. He hadn't been a victim. He'd been a volunteer. He'd signed away his own pain, his grief, his memories, his face, to escape whatever haunted him before. But something had gone wrong, and now both versions of him existed. One peaceful, one broken. He looked around the lab, a graveyard of people who had chosen to forget. He took one last photo from the folder, a Polaroid of himself and Lydia, smiling like old friends. On the back, she had written, "We'll build you a life worth remembering." He felt anger twist inside him, anger and shame. She'd known this would happen. She'd helped him erase the worst parts of himself, only for the remainder to crawl back, demanding truth. The lights above him flickered again, humming louder. A voice echoed faintly through the intercom. Unauthorized presence detected. Security en route. He grabbed the folder and ran, heart pounding, every door slamming behind him automatically as if the building itself was closing in. When he burst into the street, cold air hit his face, sharp and clean. He looked at the skyline and realized the reflection in a nearby window wasn't moving again. It stood perfectly still, smiling faintly, like a ghost caught mid-rebirth. He whispered, "What did they take from me?" The reflection's lips moved a heartbeat later. "Everything you begged them to. Stop running from yourself." The words came from behind him, low, deliberate, almost gentle, and for a moment, Oliver thought they were his own. He turned sharply, but the street was empty, wet under the sodium glow. The voice still echoed in his head like a phantom heartbeat. He gripped the folder tighter, its corners cutting into his palm. Inside were the documents he'd stolen from the abandoned NeuralSys building, donor records, experiment logs, and a list of names, all crossed out except one. His. The only one that said replication active. The rest had a single note stamped in red, terminated. He shoved the papers into his jacket and started walking faster, every shadow now feeling like a reflection that hadn't caught up yet. He spent 2 days hiding in the city's cracks, subways, alleys, shelters, chasing fragments of data and memories that didn't belong to him, yet felt like they were leaking through the walls of his mind. In one of those sleepless nights, he saw the same face again, his face, on a holographic ad for NeuralSys' new clinic branch. Identity reconstruction. Tomorrow begins with you. The building's address glowed faintly in the corner. That was all he needed. The next morning, he was there, standing across the street, staring at the mirrored glass that reflected both himself and the version of him the world had chosen to keep. The lobby was quiet, too clean to feel alive. He entered through the revolving doors, pretending confidence, wearing a cap low over his face. The receptionist smiled mechanically. "Appointment name?" He paused, then said, "Oliver Crane." She typed it in, and the system instantly froze. Her smile faltered. "Could you wait just a moment?" She turned toward the back office. He ran. Down the hallway, past doors labeled Cognitive Processing, Pattern Storage, Reconstruction Unit. He reached one that said Archive, Level 3 Access Only. The keypad glowed red. He swiped his stolen ID. The light turned green. The door opened into a dim room lined with glass panels humming softly. The air smelled faintly metallic, like electricity and antiseptic. Each panel displayed floating holograms, faces rotating slowly, their expressions flickering between smiles and stillness. He stepped closer. Every face was tagged with data, patient ID, memory index, emotional state. His breath caught when he saw his own file at the end of the row. The screen labeled Crane, Oliver J., hovered above a translucent console showing brainwave patterns pulsing like light through water. Beneath it was a folder titled Backup Memory, Original Host. His hand trembled as he tapped it. The air shifted. A projection bloomed from the glass, his apartment, his laughter, his mother's voice, a birthday candle he never remembered blowing out. His own memories, intact, looping endlessly. He reached out to touch the image, but it recoiled, pixelating into static. A soft chime echoed, followed by the sterile calm of an automated voice. Unauthorized access detected. Report to supervisor immediately. He turned, searching for an exit, but the only light came from the rows of glass showing other people, all erased, all waiting. His reflection in the glass blinked back at him, except this time it smiled. Then came the sound of footsteps. Calm, confident, approaching. You weren't supposed to see this, Lydia said, stepping into the dim light. She looked different now, sharper, sleepless, but still carrying that same gentle pity in her voice. You've gone too far. Oliver's jaw clenched. You lied to me. She didn't deny it. I told you what you could handle. He gestured at the screens. You stole people's lives. Her eyes flicked toward his reflection. We gave them peace. You begged for this, Oliver. You wanted to forget. He stepped closer. Then why am I still here? Lydia's hand hovered over a tablet. Because the deletion failed. You're the residue. The echo that won't die. He stared at her, heart pounding, mind flickering through fragments of voices, lights, and the sensation of lying beneath that surgical lamp. Then what about him? He asked. Lydia didn't answer. Instead, she pulled up a live feed on the nearest screen. The other Oliver appeared, the one who'd taken his face, walking through a glass corridor upstairs, calm and confident, wearing the same expression he'd seen in every reflection that wasn't his own. Lydia whispered, He's the integrated version. Stable. Productive. Real. Oliver took a step forward, trembling. No. I'm real. Lydia looked at him with a mix of sadness and scientific awe. Reality isn't about memory anymore. It's about function. You don't function, Oliver. You haunt. He lunged at the console, tearing the cords free. The alarms blared, lights flaring red. If I'm the ghost, then I'll haunt him for the rest of his life. Lydia tried to grab his arm. Stop. You'll kill both of you. But he was already running through the hallway, the sirens chasing his breath. He burst through a service door, sprinting up a stairwell lit by white emergency strobes. Every floor he passed reflected pieces of himself, smiling, blinking, vanishing, as if the building itself was testing which one deserved to survive. At the top, he crashed through a door into a corridor of glass. The air hummed with quiet automation. And there, at the far end, stood the other Oliver, the perfect one, speaking softly to a technician, unaware of the chaos below. The sight stopped him cold. It was like staring through a mirror that had decided to reject him. The technician turned and saw him first, eyes widening. Security, she shouted. The double looked up, confusion flashing across his face before recognition set in. Oliver stepped forward, voice breaking. Do you remember me? The double's expression softened into something almost like pity. You're not supposed to be here. Neither are you, Oliver said. The alarms shrieked louder. The double looked at Lydia's reflection in the glass behind him, her face pale under the red lights. Lydia, he said quietly, end the duplication. She shook her head. If I do, I don't know which one will remain. The doubles stared at each other, two identical heartbeats, two identical faces, the silence between them vibrating with everything that had been stolen and split. Oliver reached out his hand, palm trembling. You took my life. The other shook his head. No. You gave it to me. A blinding light filled the corridor as the system rebooted itself, scanning both of them simultaneously. The voice from above spoke again. Duplicate conflict detected. Resolution required. Sparks erupted from the ceiling. The ground shuddered. Oliver lunged, slamming his hand onto the panel beside the glass door. Erase me, erase him. Just stop pretending this is peace. The light flickered violently, And in that instant, the double's reflection overlapped perfectly with his own. One face, one moment, one impossible truth. Lydia screamed, "Oliver, don't!" But it was too late. He pressed his forehead against the glass, whispering, "Then let the system decide who I really am." The world went white. The screens exploded into static. Every face in the archive blinked out, one by one. The alarms cut abruptly, leaving only the hum of electricity and the faint echo of Lydia's voice in the dark, trembling on the edge of disbelief. "He wasn't trying to kill the copy," she whispered. "He was trying to remember which one he'd been."